Hello and welcome back to the Science Center. I'm Colin, the curator of live exhibits, and we're here in the Saltonstall Animal Room in Ithaca, New York. Appreciate you all tuning in. Hopefully I can show you some fun things in our animal room today. For the past couple days, we've had you all looking in here on our stream exhibit. We've got a couple frogs and a couple turtles. A little bit of glare from the lights, but fun exhibit. These guys have been fairly active. I've enjoyed tuning in myself when I'm not here, getting to see what everybody's up to. Well, I was excited today to try to take you all over to the Curiosity Corner to look at our Plantid tank over there. It's one of their newest live exhibits in the Science Center. It is one of the non-geographically themed live exhibits we have. We just set it up in the pet vet exhibit to be a pretty tank for our littlest guests to look at. I have my computer here that does the live stream tethered by power cords and Ethernet cords, and I was hoping to use my phone's mobile hotspot to take you all over there, but apparently I don't have good enough signal strength to keep the live stream going very well, so couldn't make it over there this time, but hopefully I'll be able to figure that out and we'll be able to go look at that tank sometime. I just had to rush back here after doing a big water change and a whole bunch of pruning of our plants there. The plants are doing super well. Here's our spotted salamander tank. There's one poking out at us. We'll say a quick hi before we move on here. Whoop. Oh, dirty glass. Looks a lot dirtier as we get closer to it. And there's that little spotted salamander peeking out at us, waiting for a worm to slither by or a cricket to hop by. So I've had to scramble. My plans got scrapped on the Curiosity tank. Here's our Eastern newt tank. So I was thinking today maybe I'd get out a handful of our snakes and talk about snakes for a little bit. Speaking of snakes, there's our Angolan python. In fact, why don't we start here? So this is our Angolan python. Lives in this exhibit while it's young. Eventually it will outgrow this exhibit and we'll move it into a room, to a cage in the back, and it will become an educational outreach animal for guests to come and meet. We do have volunteers get this snake out periodically. Angolan pythons typically have pretty good temperaments. This guy is super friendly. As I've mentioned before, this Angolan python was bred by a good friend of mine, Tim Morris, and he was gracious enough to trade us a couple of our baby rhino rat snakes for this Angolan python. Angolan pythons are one of the most rare pythons in the world. There's not a lot in the wild and there's not a lot in captivity. So it's pretty fun and special to get to see and handle an Angolan python. Remove the skull. We get lots of questions about this skull. I didn't have a clue what it was when I first started here. It's not a real skull, it is a cast, so it's made out of plastic, but it was cast from a real skull. There we go. And to go with the desert theme of this tank, it is a camel skull. Now, I never realized before I worked here and got to see this skull what big giant teeth camels have. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to turn my computer around so I can see what I'm doing. There go. And I'm realizing too, we've been keeping our room lights off in here so that we have a little less glare. Makes it hard for us to see the snake. Let me go turn on these lights real quick. There we go. Hopefully that'll make this guy show up a little better. So this is our Angolan python. It's just a little juvenile snake. It is a male, so it will stay smaller than females. That is the typical life history of snakes, is that the males stay smaller than females. The females need to be larger in order to make room for the eggs that they develop and lay. You can see this guy has a really pretty pattern, kind of a natural camouflage. So pythons are a neat snake. See how well I can show these to you. They have heat sensing pits. Let's see if I can get this in focus. There we go. Right on the front of his snout there. Oh, got a quick look at him. Having trouble with the focus. There on the front of its face. There we go. That focus to come in a little bit. He's got heat sensing pits. And those heat sensing pits, pythons and some boas have them as well. They're able to use them to search for prey in pitch black. They're able to create a thermal image that overlays their visual image. There we go. So that they can see prey even in the dark of night. It's a pretty neat adaptation they have. And I've talked in the past on some of these tours about the tiny bead-like scales that this snake has. Had a little trouble getting in focus there. It's tough to do a video show all by myself. Gotta try to run the camera and wrangle the animals. Well, this guy has tiny bead-like scales, which is an adaptation to help live in really dry, hot environments where water is really scarce. Having those small scales actually creates more inner scale skin that's able to absorb water when they find a puddle and can jump in it and try to soak up water quickly before it soaks into the earth or evaporates. So this is our Angolan python. Again, it's a juvenile. It should get quite a bit larger, maybe double in length still. Right now it's probably getting close to maybe 2 feet long. Actually could even be a little over 2 feet. So that's a super fun snake we have. It'll be fun to see this guy grow. Put that in here. AP does want to give a special hi to our keeper extraordinaire, Emily. I've got 2 great keepers here that help me with the animals. They've done a great job taking care of these critters. So here is our rhino rat tank. This will be exciting. I am going to try to get out one of our rhino rat snakes. We don't typically handle these snakes. They are pretty active and fast, and they've been known to nip a few times. I certainly don't want that to be part of my show, but perhaps it could be exciting. I'm actually going to go grab a snake hook to get this guy out. I think I've only been bit once by these guys. They generally don't bite. But I don't like getting bit, so I'll use a snake hook here. This is our female up here, basking in the tree. Pull the camera up a little closer. Kind of hard to see her with the glare there. There we go. So here's our female. She's been spending lots and lots of time up in this tree basking. Get this right in here. Let you take a look at her without having to go through the glass. There, these snakes are very visually oriented. Many snakes that have heat sensing pits, like the pythons and boas, they will certainly use their eyes and movement will attract them, but they also are using that heat signature to look for things. Some other snakes, like these guys, who don't have the heat sensing pits, are much more attuned visually. These guys are diurnal, which means they're active during the day, and they're very active hunters. They're not ambush hunters like many snakes, which just sit and wait for something to come by. These guys will actually go out and search prey down, and when they see something, they'll chase it and grab it and constrict it before they swallow it whole. Here I'm lingering on her side because you can see some really pretty blue color in between her green scales. Some of the black skin showing through as well. She's got great body condition right now. As I've mentioned in the past, I'm pretty sure that this snake is gravid. And I expect that she'll lay eggs in the coming month or several. I don't know exactly what stage of reproductive development she's in. She may still be in vitellogenesis, which is where she's creating the eggs inside of her body before she ovulates them, and then it's after ovulation that they put a shell on the egg. Snake eggs typically are soft and leathery. Baby snakes, when it's time for them to hatch, have a little egg tooth on the front of their snout that falls off pretty quickly after they hatch, but they're able to use that sharp little tooth to slit the leathery egg, and they find their way out of the egg. Let me get this camera set up back here again. So here I have grabbed my snake hook. This is the snake hook we keep here. It's a pretty small one. It's a nice light one. And this is an easy way to be able to manipulate a snake and hang on to them without having to get too close. Usually once we get the snakes out and are handling them, no matter which snake it is, they're usually calmed down quite a bit and are easy to handle. But oftentimes when you're first getting them out, that's when they get most excited. Something is happening that doesn't usually happen, and maybe it's food, and maybe they should bite first and ask questions later. So for that reason, I'll use this hook to get this snake out if I can. He is, of course, buried quite deeply here in the cage. When keeping snakes in captivity, it's important to try to give them lots of different variety in their enclosure. So you can see the female is basking up here where it's nice and warm, and yet she has good cover from this tree. And there's the space down here where the male has been. which is a spot where they can get away from the heat and cool off if they need to. Snakes, like all reptiles, are cold-blooded, ectothermic, which means that they are the temperature of their environment. This guy's slithering around in the vine in the back. Can't quite get to him. Not quite yet. We'll get him though. There we go. I think he's getting into a good spot now. I got him. Now let's just see if I can get him out. There we go. So this is our rhino rat snake. This is the male. I decided to get him out rather than the female because, again, I think she may be either gravid or getting close to being gravid, and I don't want to stress her out at all. You can see his tail wrapping around me. These are really neat snakes. Not only do they have this unicorn horn on their snouts, but no one knows exactly why they have it, what it's used for. Theory that I've heard is that it is to help them look like a vine. Helps break up the outline of their head. Whether that's to keep prey from seeing them, or whether it's to keep a predator from seeing the snake, I'm not exactly sure. Unfortunately, many things like to eat snakes. They are very often preyed upon, and they are very often persecuted by humans. People are typically very afraid of snakes. And for good reason too at times. There are many places in the world, fortunately not here in upstate New York, where there are lots of venomous snakes, which can be very deadly. We have a couple venomous snakes in this region. We have the timber rattlesnake and the Massasauga, and the copperhead's not too far away down in Pennsylvania. But most of the populations, both of Massasaugas and timbers, have been horribly persecuted long ago and are just a fragment of what they once were. Early European pioneers regularly kill snakes, and in fact, unfortunately, there still are rattlesnake roundups these days, where snakes are captured and killed for both food and curios, trinkets of snake parts, which to me is quite sad. So this is our rhino rat snake. A fun thing about these guys is that their babies start off a different color than this green color. They go through what's called an ontogenetic color change. So they start off as slate gray babies, and then it's when they're a year or 2 years old, they slowly start to develop the green color that they'll have as an adult. So there's our rhino rat snake. We'll go ahead and put this one back. Maybe I'll go grab one of the babies we have. Well, babies, it's a juvenile now. It's actually just beginning to pick up its green coloration. That cage secure again. Let me go grab a baby, juvenile. probably have a better chance getting bit by this little juvenile than I do by the adult. As I mentioned, not everybody likes to eat snakes out in the wide world. And baby snakes are a lot easier to take and a lot less dangerous to take than the adults are. Grab the snake hook. Oh, this guy's gotten even more green since I've looked at it last. What a beautiful little animal. So this little snake is actually coming up on almost 2 years old now. It's a year and a half. Whoa! These little guys can be quick. Jumped right out of my hands. There we go. Oh, there he goes. He's biting at me. I'm having to kind of squeeze onto him a little bit to keep him from going too fast. He doesn't like that. He's afraid something's trying to eat him. So he turned around and gave me a little nip. Didn't actually sink his teeth into me. He was really just giving me a warning, saying, please don't bother me. I'll go on my way if you'll go on your way. Ah, horrible focus there. So you can see this one still has a bit of its slate gray color. I don't know if I can get focused up close on it. Oh. There we go. Try to keep that focus here if I can. So this one has actually picked up quite a bit of its green color. You can see he's got that eye stripe. We've got that black stripe that goes right through its eye, which does help camouflage that eye, keeps that eye from being seen. Makes it harder for both predator and prey to see the snake. Ah, sorry, I can't get better focus there. Well, so that's our little juvenile rhino rat snake. Depending on how long our shutdown lasts, perhaps I'll be showing you all some eggs getting laid and maybe even some little hatchling babies when that time comes. This guy back down in his cage. And then I'm going to turn you all around and we'll look at our green tree pythons. See where my cords are. Here we go. Spin you all around. I'm getting heckled on my phone. There are people wanting to see me get bit. But I can't blame them because I have rooted many times to see other people get bit. Steve Irwin was one of my heroes as a young adult. Watching him run around, getting chomped on by all sorts of things was always so exciting. He had such wonderful passion and excitement for the animals he dealt with. So these are our green tree pythons. We've got a pair of them. This is the male, and like I mentioned earlier, he is quite a bit smaller than the female. He will still grow larger as he gets older, but he will always stay significantly smaller than the female. So that's our male. He's actually deep in shed. You can't really see it. He doesn't look opaque anymore, but that just means that in a couple days now, he'll slough his skin off. And then we've got our female over here. This is our female. And as I've mentioned a few times as well about her, I'm pretty sure that she is now gravid. Got this big fat belly, but it's been quite a while since she's eaten now. So So I'm pretty sure that's a belly full of eggs. I won't bother her too much. But since she has eggs in her belly, and the male is in the shed, I unfortunately won't be able to get either of these guys out to show you right now. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go grab our hose and show you how I give these guys water. So green tree pythons are come from the rainforests of Papua New Guinea and Australia, and they live in a place where it is wet. The difference between the rainy season and the dry season isn't whether it rains or not, it's just how much rain they're getting. So these guys, they have this water feature here. We've got this nice little pool, and it actually recirculates. We've got this little hose hidden here that keeps the water recirculating and tries to keep it fresh. But these snakes are spoiled, and they don't like, there we go, they don't like to drink from that water. And so, once or twice a week, I come with my hose. Oh, this is gonna be tough. I come with my hose and I drip water on them. And you can see his head is now undulating as he sucks the water in. This guy is quite thirsty now, as he's about to shed. It will take me quite some time to water him, and I won't bore you all making you watch me do it the whole time. Let's see if we can get this female to take a quick drink. Oop. She's a little better trained, and she'll often come and just drink straight from the hose. She's not looking too thirsty today. I see her shaking her head telling me, no thank you, I don't need a drink right now. So I'm going to let those guys be. I'll come back and water that male some more. I forgot to show you all before I open the cage. I was going to show off our tokay gecko. Let's see if I can find him back here. We keep a tokay gecko in here. A friend of mine, Paul August, bred our tokay geckos and donated them to us. Oh, I see a gecko tail, and there's a gecko foot. Hopefully I don't make this guy too angry, because tokay geckos can be awfully mean lizards. Oh, I can't quite get you a good headshot. There we go, that's not too bad. It's hard to get a perspective on this guy. This is a giant lizard. He's a huge gecko. There are certainly larger geckos than the tokays, but not many. They're called tokay geckos because the males will let out a super loud call that some people think sounds like they're saying tokay. If I were to grab him up, he would certainly make that call, but he would also probably bite the heck out of me. And honestly, I am too slow to be able to grab this guy easily. You can see he's got gorgeous red spots all over his body. He's a super cool lizard. When he was donated to us, Paul and I agreed that it was likely this was the only cage that was appropriate that we had for him to go in, and we agreed that he would likely get eaten by the snake. So we thought, well, it'll be a good meal for the snake and fun to have a tokay in here while it lasts. And he was just a little juvenile animal at that point, but he's grown up big now. He's a big, huge adult male, and still hasn't gotten eaten. These snakes in the wild would eat lizards much like a tokay gecko. Oh, cage closed. They would eat lizards like tokay geckos, but since these are captive bred snakes, they have never encountered a lizard in their life before I put this guy in here, when they were quite old animals. And so because of that, they have not been interested in eating a gecko. Here's another look at our big, gorgeous female. Now I've got two last snakes to show you. I'll be a little quicker about these guys. Sorry for that bumpy ride there. Many of you will know and recognize the snakes I'm going to show you now. These are the snakes that we most often get out for guests when we're open. We have in here our corn snake Percy. I don't know if you can see her. She's hiding in her hut there. Oh, looks like she's deep in shed. I wasn't intending to tell you all about snake sheds today, but perhaps I should, given that our male green tree is in shed, and it looks like Percy is as well. Hey Percy, don't bite me. Yeah, she is completely in shed. She is blind as a bat. Except even more blind because she doesn't do echolocation. Here, so I'm not going to handle her for too long since she's so deep in shed, but this is a fun opportunity to get to show you what it looks like when there's a snake in shed. If you can see her eyes, oh, her belly's a good tell too. You can see on her belly she's completely opaque. Typically those belly scales are much more bright, black and sort of orangish, and now it's just all drab. Let me see if I can get her head around here because her eyes are really the best tell. There we go. I'm not sure I'll get that in focus, but I think you all can tell how opaque her eyes are there. She is deep in shed. So virtually all animals shed their skin, but typically, well, at least mammals like us and dogs and all the other furry creatures you can think of, mammals typically shed their skin one little bit of dandruff at a time. Little bits of skin are constantly sort of flaking off and being renewed. And that's how we keep our skin fresh and healthy. And snakes, on the other hand, as many of you are probably aware, they shed all of their skin in one fell swoop. So as a snake grows and gets larger, or as it just survives, snakes will often go through shed cycles when they have an injury on their skin, and it's a way, going through a hyper shed cycles where they shed over and over and over again, is a way that they can renew their skin if it's been injured. Too bad I can't get that in focus there. There we go. There she's flicking her tongue to smell things. So when a snake is ready to shed its skin, it's a tongue twister here, what happens is this opaqueness is actually a fluid layer that gets built up between the old skin on the outside and the new skin underneath that. And that fluid layer is how the old skin is able to release from the new living skin underneath it. And so they build up this fluid layer. It causes them to become opaque like this. When their eyes get cloudy like that, it does cloud their vision and they have a lot of trouble seeing. Many snakes will get much more irascible. They'll get angry and mean when they're in shed because they're scared. They can't see, and they're afraid that whatever is messing with them might be trying to kill them. So generally it is wise not to handle a snake in shed for that reason, because of their temperament, but also because you don't want to take the chance of tearing the skin as they're trying to build a new layer of skin. So they build up that fluid layer and they become completely opaque like this, and then that fluid layer slowly has to dry up. Generally the whole process takes about a week from the time they start to go opaque to when the fluid layer dries up, and then once it's dry, then the old skin is ready to peel off. And then what they do is they go along and they'll rub their snout against things until they get the skin on the front of their face to start peeling back. And then they slither out of it. And it's really fun to get to watch a snake shed. They have such great articulation of their scales. They have muscles attached to each scale, and practically scale at a time they're able to pull themselves out of their old skin. It's a really fun thing to watch. If I'm able to catch a snake shedding, whether it's Percy or maybe our green tree, I'll try to make a recording of that so you all can watch a snake shed. So that's Percy. She is very likely our longest animal resident at the Science Center here. She was actually bred by a coworker of mine's daughter. She has Percy's parents, have them, and they bred and produced eggs, and I believe the eggs were actually kept on exhibit here at the Science Center, so people could see them incubating, and then could see them hatch when that time came. And Percy was one of those little baby snakes. That was in May of 2006. So she is about to have her 14th birthday. So as many people have heard me say, Percy is probably the friendliest snake in the world. Many people will say that about snakes, but very few snakes have met as many kids and people as Percy has. She's lived here for 14 years and has met snakes most days of her life probably at this point. Well, there we go, and now we've got one last snake to look at. You all have one last chance to watch me get chomped. I'm going to get out Bob, our California king snake. That's his cage right there in the prep room. I'll go grab him and bring him out. He's been a little irascible recently. He's getting up there in years. So this is Bob. This is our California king snake. California king snakes get their name from the fact that they eat other snakes. So they are the king of snakes, just like where king cobras get their name from. King cobras are another Ophiophagous snake. In fact, king cobra's genus is Ophiophagous, which means Ophio is snake and Phagus is eat. And so king cobras are snake eaters. So this is Bob. He's not being super active today. These guys in the wild, they will generally eat primarily reptiles. They live in deserts, and so the most common things that they come across are other snakes and lizards. But they certainly wouldn't turn their nose up at rodents or a bird, or possibly even bird eggs. I'm keeping a close eye on him because I don't trust him right now. He's been a little nippy recently, He's been before we closed. He was on a little hiatus. Just hoping he'd calm down. He's seeming pretty calm, but he was looking a little interested in my wrist there. They have these stripes. A researcher had figured out that these stripes, that snakes that have stripes like this, I would have trouble getting him to show this off because he's a little too calm and a little too used to being handled. I would have trouble getting him to be scared. But a snake with stripes like this, when they get frightened and they move very quickly, it creates an optical illusion, and these stripes begin to blend together, and it will actually make the snake look. The movement of the stripes will make it look like it's moving in the opposite direction than it is actually going. And so it's a really neat predator avoidance mechanism. So when a bird or some critter that wants to eat a snake comes across a king snake, and they see one moving really quickly, the snake has a chance that if the predator thinks it's going in the opposite direction, it might be able to find cover and get away before it gets eaten. Well, I hope you all have enjoyed checking out our snakes. Sometime in the future I will get out mice for all of our snakes and let you guys get to see some of them eat. It's fun to watch snakes eat. They have to figure out how to eat big prey without any hands or fingers or utensils, just their mouth. Well, thanks for tuning in. I'll find some fun exhibit to put you all on. Maybe we'll go over and look at the lionfish for a day or two. It's fun to watch those graceful, slow fish moving around. So I'll be doing these animal tours at 2 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So tune back in next Thursday. But we should also now have these recorded and available to view anytime, along with our educators and the series that they've been doing. They've been doing activities each morning for kids. So we've got lots of great videos on our YouTube channel. Well, thanks for stopping in, and I'll see you all next time. Take you all on over to the lionfish.